Hi everyone, and welcome to another episode of Ask robtrek, where I try to answer your questions from the comments sections in my videos. And if you have any questions, feel free to leave them down in the comments below, and I'll always do my best to answer them. So this week I got a lot of questions actually about how do I edit my bird photos, because in my last few videos I did my best settings for birds in flight, and I would show the before image and the after image, and in between there'd be like a 5 or 6 second clip of the editing process. And of course, that is just way too fast to really see exactly what I was doing. But what I wanted to do is really kind of the same thing, but just give you an overview of my approach to editing the bird photos. So let's look at this image here sent in to me by a viewer to edit, and you'll see that in a few minutes. But basically my approach is to start with the big picture and then work my way down to the finer details. So first I start by looking at all of the elements in the scene, things I might have to deal with like trees or clouds or buildings. And then I look at where is the lighting coming from. In this case, it's coming from the top left and going down to the bottom right. And then, I think about the direction of the bird and how I'm going to crop this image. So those are the first things I think about in terms of the big picture. So in this image, I don't have a lot of elements to deal with, right? I just have the bird on a blue sky. There's no trees or clouds or buildings, etc. And based on the way the bird is flying, I'm going to have them fly into the frame. So most likely, I'm going to go ahead and crop it so that there's a little headroom in front of the bird this way. And that's just a rule of thumb. You can, do whatever you want there. But I kind of like a little bit of a negative space in front of the bird. And then for the sky, since it is so plain, I'm going to try and add a little more drama. And seeing that the light is coming in from this direction, I'm going to do a linear gradient this way and then a linear gradient in the opposite direction. So in this direction, I'm going to brighten the sky because that's where the light's coming from. And then in the opposite direction, I'm going to darken the sky. And then I'm going to look at the smaller details. I'm going to start with the bird's body. And I'm going to look at the shadows I might have to bring up or highlights I should emphasize and details. And I'm just going to use a simple brush to do that, dodge and burn, etc. And then from there, I go to the bird's head. And generally, I like the bird's head to be brighter than the rest of the bird. And it already is in this case, so we have a really good starting point. And then the last thing I look at are the bird's eyes and beak, and maybe the claws if they were showing. And for that, generally all I have to do is a little bit of dehaze or clarity, and sometimes a little bit of saturation if they get washed out a little bit, which is very common with birds. But I want the eyes and the beak to kind of look shiny and glossy and well saturated so you can see the color. And then after I've done all of this editing here, I'm going to start to look at the overall sharpening and denoising. Now, this viewer is using Lightroom, so I'm going to be limited to what Lightroom has. But, I can do a little bit of sharpening overall. I'm going to do a sharpening mask to make sure I'm not sharpening the sky, which would make it look noisier. And then I'll go into the luminance denoising slider and adjust that, and then go back and adjust the sharpening to taste, and then I'm pretty much done. So let's go ahead and watch like a 1 or 2 minute montage of how I edit this image. So as you can see, I use very basic tools to edit that image. The brushes, the linear gradient, and the various sliders for exposure, saturation, sharpening, and luminance. And, I think the images came out pretty well considering what I started with, but there's certainly much more sophisticated ways to edit this image. And also its editing is very subjective, right? You might not like how I edit my images, but someone had asked how I do it, so there you have it. And I do have some requests to edit images from other viewers using different softwares, so those will be in upcoming videos. But hopefully you got an idea of my overall workflow and how I approach editing, and I hope you found this helpful. If so, consider buying me a coffee or make a small donation in the links below because they help me to continue making videos like this, and they are greatly appreciated. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope to see you again soon.